Chapter 3, Heavy Timber Construction. The food you eat in the mess hall, the items that buy with the PX for the clothes that you purchase for the sale store, all those were at one time shipped to and stored in the warehouses to be making the handle of these items warehouse panel personnel easier than mobile warehouses are in construct with the loading dock for the platforms. It is important that the warehouse loading docks for the platforms will be constructed to maintain to prevent their breakdown. The Army Carpentry will be responsible for the maintenance of these facilities. The chapter will help do the job. The chapter also deals with the waterfront structure. Naturally, will think of the Navy when they think of the wharves and piers. There are places where the Army personnel maintain such facilities. A good example of this are ports facilities in Vietnam. The facilities will expand, and first for the most of them they have been completely rebuilt with accommodated all the services. Some of these facilities may be used for the Navy for the tankers and supply ship to bring them fuel, food, or other necessary supply. The facility engineer with the engineer under the Army to command with the responsibility all the maintenance repairs work to keep the facilities in operating condition. This is only one example. There may be other ways which you may have the opportunity to work at the wharves or piers. Some of them may be large, like examples of given. They may be small enough, one large enough to accommodate small boats for the bolts. The chapter discusses the fundamental principles of the construction, maintaining warehouse loading dock for the waterfront structures. For 7, warehouse loading docks. Practically every item of the seen around was some one-time packs created with the stored in the warehouse. Some of these items are large, heavy, very difficult to handle, make them easily handled and stored with the warehouse, even constructed with a heavy-duty loading dock. Some of the docks are constructed with the inclined lamp. See Figure 45 that accommodated the small loading, unloading equipment. Other built upright with the directing unloading of the trucks and rail cars. No matter the type of the loading dock provided, they must be strong enough to withstand the impact of the load trucks and movement of the loading equipment to make sure that the structures can withstand the abuse. They must be periodically inspected with adequate and maintained. 17. Construction features. The section contains information construction feature for the general paint is proper, the correct prepared with the warehouse loading dock. There are 2 important factors that consider them. Plan on loading dock for the side with the cargo to be handled with the hand weight with the carry with the platform. For example, if there are only one small items with the cargo will be stored in the warehouse, the dimension of the loading dock may be small, but if the platform is to carry the weight of the cargo transporting vehicle, the forklifts, tugs, and trucks, it must be built much larger than stronger than ISO. Figure 45 warehouse loading dock. Carry only the weight of the cargo. For the reason we will discuss the different types of foundations, how they should be constructed with adequate support for the intended loads. The 473 foundations. Normally, loading docks foundations constructed with either wood or masonry pier of the columns. The columns of the piers must be spaced according to the weight of the carry. They are to carry. The most cases they may have the space of the 16 to 10 feet apart. If the earth is within the foundation, the rest of them have low strength supporting strength off of its loads expected with extremely heavy. The foundation should be constructed with a solid reinforced concrete wall. 7.5 sills consist of the simple heavy timber for the build up at the top of the more timber of the sill side that will be determined the intended loads to be carried with the distance between the piers. Consequently, sills are used with the pier type, but the foundations are placed directly on the pier. Sills are correctly placed, but they will surround the pier parameter of the dock after the sills are tied with the piers and girders if needed are placed. 7.6 girders. Girders are used for the interior foundation wall support with the inner end of the floor joist. However, there will be no need if the joists are safely span the distance from the sill to sill. If the girders are not joists should be placed directly on the sill. 7.7 joists are a lighter piece for which make the body with the floor frame, which don't mean that they actually light the weight in the weight, but they are lighting the comparison with the other frame member. The joists are usually 3 inches thick, but thickness will vary. The suit with the construction details is usually spaced 16 to 24 inches on center. However, these spaces are too wide to support the intended load. Shows the joists on sill A and the joists and sill and the girder. Also, the sill joist with ledger plate and sill of the girder. Figure 46 joint construction. Should you have the heavier joist rather than the narrow spacing when the joist has been placed? Make sure the greatest bearing surface is used. The other way to play for them, the crown edge up to place the crown edge up over the top of the counteract the bending of the forced input within the joist. Each of the joists is placed and should be secured indicated in figure 46. 7.8 bracing. If we expect the loading decks adequate support load placed on them, the same of the abuse of the vehicles, we reinforce them with some of the type of the bracing. The bracing must be properly designed and placed and given the support desired. 7.9 wooden pier for the use of the foundation as they should be braced each other with a diagonal brace shown in figure 45. And wooden girders that are also used in the platform construction truss brace shown in place under each of the girder with this platform is to support extremely heavy loads. Bracing should be secured with the bolts and on the other hand light load carrying platforms bracing may be secured with the spikes no matter with the method of use to secure the bracing. Make sure the material may have good bearing qualities. 7.2 decking of the flooring of the loading of the dock should also be at least 3 inches thick and laid perpendicular with the joists. All joists may be staggered joints directly over the joist after decking has been correctly fitted in place. This should be secured with a large spike after the platform has been erected properly floored and should be protected with unnecessary bumps and scrape the protection supplied with the fender boards. 712 fender boards. Fender boards are heavy timber placed in the front of the loading dock to protect it from vehicle contact damage. The secure the sill with a spike with the bolts, and depending upon the size of the timber, to adequately place on the fender boards from the solid continuous road timbers. 713 general maintenance problems. Your job is not to complete when you finish with the construction of the warehouse loading dock. This is a continual maintenance problem. It is your job to perform the maintenance as aside with the original flaw with the material, structural sealing, weathering, normal wear and tear. Deterioration presents other extreme maintenance problems. Deterioration causes the decay of the fungi, action, rust, chemical action, insects, termites, and marine boars. 714 decay and its prevention. Unpainted, untreated wooden members are more subject to decay than any of the other construction materials. Warm, humid climates or seasonal periods. With high humidity, moisture contact provides excellent condition for the growth of decay, causing fungi. Wooden members, which are the number near the touching with the deep damp for ground, but especially subject to the fungi growth. To prevent minimize the fungi growth, and our job will accept the maximum size over the wooden structure. 715. Exposed wooden members should be painted with the soak of the creosote whenever the possible. Wooden members should be constructed on some site of the masonry foundation above the ground level. This holds the tree as well as the untreated timber. 716 runs in prevention. Iron and seal the components of the rust after prolonged period of exposure to the rainfall, snow with the moisture land in air that is particularly true. The material is not painted, otherwise treated against the type of the reaction. The paint metals which are not inherent but resistant, otherwise projected from rust. 717 insects and their elimination. The wood in the structure concerned with the termites present with a major inspection of the repair problem. The inspection establishes beneath the structure they construct with the earth-like shelter tube with the lead of the wood portion of the structure. The tubes may enter the wood from the below through the cracks between the brick and the hollow tile. The well-established termite colony can cause the major structural damage in a very short while. For the region, you must provide with the adequate inspection control program. 718. Some of the basic methods used to discourage termite infloration, the soil treatment, the wood treatment, the termite shields, not allowing the wood to come into contact with the ground, with the preservative treatment of the supporting wood pile, with specialty in the foundation construction, when they also discourage termite activity. However, if the termite colonies do not accumulate, consult your entomologist. 719 corrective repairs. The maintenance of the problems can also be serious situation. However, if they are adequate to prove the tree, but the serious will be reduced. The proper inspection maintenance method will prolong the useful life of all structures. Determine the best repair method depends on the use of the structure, extent of the damage, life expectancy, the purpose of the future roof. They are also very important, but why the repair and the needs are also important. The extent of the damage will depend on how the structure failed. Determine what this must be with the cause of the failure. 721 premature failure with the materials. Various components may be caused one of the following reasons: the defective materials and structural components, be incorrect installation, application failure to related connected adjacent component fidelity, design, unusable extreme climate conditions, exceeding the design specification for which the material and structural part was design after the usual exceeding limitation of the original design, the others for that which for the structure was designed. 722. The failure occurred during the normal life of the expensive structure. They should be carefully investigated, defects corrected before any superficial repair is done, unless the cause of the failures and identify the corrective procedures are strained with the installation engineer should be consulted. There are the adequate corrective measures. 8. Waterfront structure. The fundamental principle of the basic practice of the preservation of the preservation waterfront structure, the most economical manner. The fundamental intent with the ensure the facilities maintained within such the condition that they can be used there through the planned life. The structures would be maintained by the Army. Carpentry for the install that the carpenter was assigned to one of the waterfront installations maintained by the Army. If the carpenter expects to maintain waterfront structure, he must know that the structures and or other used to be together working within them. With what damages they prevent, the maintenance checks, the methods of the inspection, the rare repairs procedure, in conjunction with them, and let's discuss the methods and procedures. 83. General speaking, with the waterfront structure include the wharfs, quays, piers, bulkheads, pertaining walls, breakwaters, jetties, groins, and other supporting features. However, the wharfs and guides, the piers and bulkheads, and retaining walls are the only structure that we'll be working with. Some will center our discussion around them. The section covers the construction features, special tools needed, the general maintenance problem, corrective repairs, preventive maintenance measures, safety measures, waterfront structures. 84. Waiver the guides and quays and other structure with the construction approximately parallel to the shoreline, with providing breathing of the docking with the seagoing vessels. This structure is virtually the same from this point, will be referred to the waivers. Piers are constructed for the construction perpendicular to the shoreline, with the provide berths, slips to the tie up more and more vessels on either side of the bulkheads. Retaining the walls are structured for the construction approximately parallel to the shore, with protecting the shore from the soil erosion. 87. Wharves and piers must be maintained extent with the necessary to ensure the safe and efficient use for the berthing, servicing, repairing, overhauling seagoing vessel. The principal job of maintaining these structures as follows: replace the broken or damaged fender piles, replace the deteriorated wood decks and singers, other timbers affected by the attacks of the marine boars, replacing the corroded deteriorated pipe, remove the scale and the repainting of the seal member, repair the deck surfaces. 8. There are several types of specifically applicable to maintain the repair waterfront structure of the labor harbor facilities. Some of these, the terms of the definitions are as follows: a bit, the double post with the width of the vessels are moored or tied, bollard, a single post with the width of the vessels are moored or tied, chalk, a block line or two, a horn shaped converging arms used as T-guides, sometimes called the fair lead. Fair lead choke is considered the horizontal timber fitted between the two vertical fender of the fender piles cleat, a horizontal device from the two traversing arms with a more incline with the lines of versatile fastened dock, shelter basin with the vessels are berthed on the dock. Dolphin, usually a cluster of the piles placed in the water from the mooring vessel to keep them away from the structures and shoals and shores. Fender structural feature review of the lessening of the shock to minimize the damage for the vessel that come into contact with the shore structure. Mooring facility with the vessels are safely secured, but include the moor platforms and islands, dolphin piers, waves, etc. Pier head and liner. Established in the harbor lining, marking the permissible limit of the pier construction, usually limited with the open type of the construction. Your quay wall, wall along the shore to retain the soil may be used with the wharf, and however, whenever the wharf that becomes the quay with the marginal wharf, the sea wall with the wall along with the shore to prevent the encroachment and enter for the gradual step by the sea. But if the wall is used, the wharf then is not called the sea wall. Slip the area between the two piers. The 8 9 the Waverton piers constructed from the type and timber for the construction steel. The combination of these materials, they usually timber mostly widely used because it is most economical, lighter, easier to work with. However, the surface of life of the timber is shorter than others because of the subject to the decay of the fungi, accident, deterioration, and infestation. Its life can be extended, protecting it with preservatives. For the most part, the creosote treatments are very effective against these actions. 810 before adding any water for construction is constructed, there are many factors to be considered. Among these factors, the size of the vessel to accommodate the amount of the cargo to be handled, the load, and dead live the load, dead and live to be carried on the structure, the depth of the water, the variation of the entire, the 811, the construction of the feature that makes sure that the other wharves and piers can be observed, the beef, the way must be the type of the construction components recommended. For H12 piling, these 3 types of piles used with the water pier, with the construction beer pile, the fender pile, and the mooring pile. If the timber used the piling, they must be treated with the creosote with some of the other preservative compounds to protect the fungi, marine boar attacks. 813. Bear the pile is supported with the wharf of the pier with the frame deck, and the piles should be straight with the measure of at least 6 inches across the top, 18 inches across the bottom, 60 to 18 feet tall, and 60 to 80 feet in length. The length varies according to the depth of the wharf with the condition of the bottom. These bearings lines should be spaced at 16 to 10 feet apart with the center to center in one direction, 5 feet apart with the center to center in another direction. Alright, 814, the force of the moving the ship with the coming into direct contact with the bearing of the pier sufficient with the collapse of the wharf and the pile with the natural project to protect the furnace to this protection of the absorbed initial shock fender pile with the place approximately 2.25 feet with above the center line with the outside of the rowing bearing piles. These piles are placed approximately 18 feet apart along the side of where the ship docks. Figure 47, logger's tools. The third type of the pile is mooring is placed within the outside row of the bearing pile is placed. 47 shows the logger tools, approximately 30 feet, let me see at the bottom. Approximately 30 feet from the part of the base along the outside of the row of the bearing peel. The plows are used to extend with the 4 feet above the floor of the deck of the platform. The 4 feet extension provides the ample space to ensure the mooring lines. The caps and girth, the caps of large timber was placed from the top of the burning plate piles or support the pier girth with the secure with the pile with the drifting pin steel with the pin with the whole timbers together. The pier girth with the on the cap of the script and the cap of the drift pins girth with the wharf construction out with the rear most rests directly on the bearing peel. The girth also secured with the drifting pins. 817 joists. The joists are small timber like 8 and 12 inches joists with the flooring decking secured with the rest of the direct of the girders and secured with them. The drifting pin. The joints are very important. Should be constructed well seasoned, well treated timber. 818 decking and flooring should be laid with the perpendicular joist secured with the 16 penny nails and drift pins. This deck should be at least 3 inches thicker than joined together over the joist, and the joists should be staggered for the greater strength and support. Alright, circle leans a circle on the right hand, a perpendicular raised load, lower load is lower the left hand, right hand, raised boom. Check out visual signs. I also did that one. So these are standard crane signals. 819 special tools needed. See, you cannot manhandle all over the heavy timber that you will use within building waterfront structures. Special tools you move the place from the timber that are known as logger tools consist of heavy can't hooks, the timber carriers, to like poles, heavy the can't hook with the lever type of the tool for the primarily use the roll the timber, the carrier, the concern with the two-man tools. They're primarily used to pick up and carry the timber, to pick up the pole with the use the hold, to steady the timbers while they're paying place, and the tools are shown in figure 47. Although the cane is cannot be considered as a special tool, will be included because of the use of the raised and lower heavy tools, such as the use of the building of the waterfront structure. Normally 2 minutes time with the crane. The operator, the helper driver, the crane carrier truck with the hook for the unhook the load, single with the operator with lift and lower the load, where the two position load. Standard signals are used to the purpose will not be called to the operator of the crane, but there will be times when the crane help is not available. At such time, they'll probably have the help of the crane operator with the signals. You will probably be working with the standard crane signal illustrating figure 48. The setting, learning the signal thoroughly to become because if you give the crane operator an incorrect signal, it could cause an accident that would damage some of the very expensive equipment. Remember that after the heavy timbers have been moved in place, they must be leveled properly. Carpenter's level, which is learned with the memorandum of the 531, is the tool for you for the purpose of 820. Let the assume that the going to the remove the replace with the damaged wooden pier component. Before you can replace with the component, you must prepare for the boring of the bolt holes, notching with the special fits, etc. Also, must know certain type of the timbers equipment and specification, which are some of the things you should know. 821, the items of information collected, the journal notes found with the construction plan. They should be also used within timber time of the construction of the new structure for the repairing of the existing one. From those, for the notes will give it such information as the size of the hole, drill, drift bones, bolts and the bolts, hold the bolts and play for the basis design type of the hardwood, the eve, etc. Let's look at the type. Look at the sample journal notes legend. Journal notes: holes in the drift pins. There should be 1/16 inch smaller than the pin itself. Holes through the bolt hole should be the same diameter of the bolt itself, and no bolt that should be projected beyond the face of the timber, the outside of the face of the fender system. All pilots to be crossed the type that they have used whether the marine boilers are attacked. All members must be rough except with the 4-inch blank decking, where there should be the finish of the wearing side only. Basis of the design, live load 500 per pound per square feet, pile bearing 50,000, entry crane 70 ton capacity, 17 ton capacity, extreme fiber stress wood, 1,800 pairs per square inch, compressed parallel gain wood 1,500 per square inch, compression perpendicular to grain wood 450 per square inch, horizontal shear wood 15 pairs per square inch, modulus elastic wood 1,600. It's when the outgoing out-gauge cast iron washer over the all fits of the angle of the pile of the building materials. Assume the preparation of 15 foot. The preparation required should be to determine the driving test length of the pile, adjusted accordingly. Project end with the wall of the bolt should be painted after the tightened and drawn. 822. Let's take some of the problems general maintenance of the waterfront structure with the likely the special carpentry field with the speed familiar to begin with the water primary cover the pier with the wharf construction failures. 823. General maintenance problems. Chief among the general maintenance problems resolved with the pier with the wharf construction failures. Some of the causes of the fracture of the damage to warehouse loading dock. These for the can be added to the storm of the collision with the marine borers. 824. Deterioration is all responsible for some of the period of the war failure. If the deterioration may be anticipated correctly as outlined below, within cover the decay with the action of the termites of the marine borer, the decay of the term the cover the action of the low parasitic form of the plant. Life known as the fungi, the growth of the fungi dependent upon the moisture, food, air, temperature, warmth. Consequently, the absence of any of the requirements will prevent fungi growth. However, the most general successful way to stop fungi growth is to poison the food supply with usually poison the food supply by treating the timber with itself with a greaseous site. 825. Termite attacks the structural building timber to probably achieve the cause of the insect damage. Specifically true with the timber, the component of which are in direct contact with the earth. Although the termites are the chief of the cause of the damage, they are not only the damaging insects. Marine borers are also responsible for some of the deterioration actions on the timber. 826. There are many types of marine borers, but only two general groups: the mollusk and the crustacean. All important to just know that the borers belong with the mollusk of the group, and they enter the timber. The borer themselves, the honeycomb into the interior. On the other hand, the crustaceans operate the forming shallow gills just under the surface of the wharf. The unpure construction failures are caused by the mechanical factors, deterioration factors. What's the responsibility of the damage must be repaired? So let's take a look at some of the corrective repairs which can be made to try to determine whether the method used should be repaired and proper protect the damage and repair. Corrective repairs. The wharf and piers are easily repaired. Replacement damage. Part of the replacement part should be the same type of the material as part of the replacement. But if the failure is due to overloading, believe the overloading will recur. The structure shall be reinforced, otherwise strengthened. 829 failures to determine deterioration of the hardness, direct current of the failure. The cost of the estimates how the repair should be carried out with the biggest error. That's specifically true for the failure due to the deterioration. From visual inspection, some of the timbers look solid and the sound, but if when removed, when they may be found with the hollow shell, the primarily due to the attack of the termites, similar fender of the pile with the sign above the water line, often damaged near the ground line with the marine board for the reason. But the timber that must be carefully checked to determine their true condition. Two ways to do this are the hammer on the timber, the one drive the nail into the whether they have become softened and deterioration. If you have doubt with the soundness of the structure, you should bore holes in the side of the cap and the string of it. If you find the timber of the sound, to be carefully plugged with a paint hole to keep the further moisture. 830. General speak of the materials used for the repair with the placement should be the same type and type of the used for the original design. However, no matter what type of the material that you must handle them with care and intent with them give the maximum service. Also, to stop the entrance of the plunge inspection, you must retrieve the low resistant area of the broken surface of the tree. Remember that if the cut are made in the surface of the tree, the timber that you should paint them with the 2 or more coats of the preservative compound. Note if the creosote is used, if the treatment must apply with some of the temperature between 175 to 200 degrees Fahrenheit. Another thing to remember the use of the timber hooks, can hooks, and other sharp pointed tools when you're handling treated timber. 831. Most of the modern treatment plants timbers for the side of the notch bore them before the treatment to prevent the need for the further treatment of the handle of these timbers with care. 832. So far that we've discussed the construction features of wharves, piers, and quays, the special tools needed for such work, the general maintenance problems involved, the corrective repair necessary. Now let's take a look at some of the ways to minimize damage of these structure safety measures with it and use of such work. 833. Preventive maintenance measures. To adequately maintain the wave of the piers, you must provide the maintain an appropriate preventive maintenance program. The program must outline a preventive measure and present specific frequencies for inspection and corrective action. Therefore, we're going to discuss methods should be maintained the structure, as we explained above, the wear of the pier structure, the outer damage of deterioration, inspect the overload, infestation, overload, storm drains, fire, etc. However, the damaging effects of these factors can be minimized with the following procedure for the precautions outlined in the following paragraphs. 834. To guard against the extensive wear of the decking, must frequently inspect to keep the track vehicle without the wheel, the equipment of traveling over the post, and notice for the restrictions in conspicuous places. All the loose bolts and nuts found during the inspection should be tightened, and all the decking should be securely nailed in every joist. If the decking is 3 inches thick, the 60D nails or 6-inch spikes should be used. The 4-inch thick, the 7 to 8-inch spikes should be used. All planking and decking material should be of the same thickness to give it a smoother surface. Fender piles should be removed and replaced before excessive wear has occurred. Normally, only word such as the oak with the use of the fender pile. However, the traffic is light with the creosote softwood piles may be used. No material with the type of the wood is made. Make sure that all the chokes are tightly fitted between the pile. With the chokes help to prevent the pile from rolling them from the rub the vessels. If the currents are swift and fender long, they should be removed to prevent damage to piles. Although the check through the cheek of the timber, the hardwood should be made within any necessary corrective actions taken. 836. The fender piles should be corrected. This year, the damage could be the damage of the structure that impact the vessel. Therefore, all the fender piles should be replaced with regular intervals. If the anticipated normal life of the fender pile with a different location depending on the type of the pile, the water, soil condition, and other factors, anticipated normal life that can be established reasonably accuracy after a few years observing the other similar structure of the vicinity. After the anticipated normal life has been established, everything replaced from the pile with the usually numbered historically record kept on to make sure they are replaced before the end of the anticipated life. 838. Safety measures for any type of the work of the perform the wharf piers instructs the following safety precautions should be observed to make sure that all the safety provisions apply when the holders, runways, platforms, scaffold, and guardrails are used. See all the equipment inspected with some of the qualified person found in safe operation condition before you do not permit the working the ride loads, the hooks, and the hammers, sprinter, hoist, buckets, and any type of the moving equipment. Does not allow loads, booms, buckets just swung on over the heads of the workmen. The crew of the work will wear with the life of the vessel when they are working over the water unless the proper scaffold platforms with the guards on safe belts and left lines are provided. And if the workmen wear the protective clothing and goggles or other safety equipment required with the type of the work that is being done, make sure that all the provisions covering the storage of the materials and disposal waste are adequately fouled. Chapter 4. Sawmill Operations.